Hello and welcome. Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are at the moment in the world. My name is Marcel. You are here, hopefully, for a webinar called AI for Automating Back Office Tasks, where we're going to talk about how we are streamlining processes for reports, proposals, reviews, and much, much more in terms of processes today. We have quite a bunch of people joining us today, and I'm trying to do my best to accommodate all of the questions, all of your input that you might have over the course of this webinar today. If you have any specific questions during the webinar, feel free to use the chat box that is in here. My wonderful assistant Anna is going to have a look over that and trying to ping me that I see all of your questions. I have it here on my second screen. If it takes a couple of minutes until I get to your question, please bear with me. I'm trying to do multiple things at the same point in time, and I'm doing my best to get through that. My name is Marcel. I am a computer scientist by trade. I have a PhD in business process management, and I've been doing AI since 2014, I believe. So over 10 years now. Back then, AI was a little bit different than what we have today. Happy that for quite some years we have now these super cool models that are called large language models that probably if you're in this webinar today, you already have heard about. And what I do in my day-to-day life is I actually do implement AI projects for businesses of the size of companies of 3 people, and my biggest customer right now has, I think, 340,000 people. So I have seen quite a range of different company sizes, of different, let's say, setups, of different hopes and wishes for what AI can do within a business and what it cannot do. Get to. I have a bigger team behind me. I have about a dozen people. We're located all around the world. So part of us is in Germany, part in Asia. I'm right now, as we speak, in Portugal. That doesn't really matter too much because I'm not a virtual person. I'm a real person, but I'm virtually present wherever it is. What I have done together with my team is since 2022 delivered over 55 applications in the way of AI process management and improvements on that, and dozens of projects that made it over the proof of concept phase to the actual production phase. And that's where I would like to start with you all today. And if you have any type of social media, if you are on LinkedIn or if you are on Twitter also, you probably have heard about the following statistic that was published a couple of weeks ago by MIT. MIT has done some research and has found out that about 95% of the AI proof of concepts in companies fail. Failing meaning they never get to production for plenty of different reasons. So on the other hand, that means only there's 5% successful proof of concepts. I have in the past, I have quite a huge success rate, so I'm not in the bottom 95% here, thankfully. But I found interesting what MIT research has been finding and figuring, because the most part of these 5% of the use cases that actually succeed have all shared characteristics. And that's mostly the integration to workflows, that these applications are very domain specific and that they have measurable improvements. On the other hand, people or use cases that are not successful and not really make it productions are mostly problems and applications that look shiny, that look very cool and it's nice to make a LinkedIn post out of it, but that don't really have a connected return on invest in the real world out of that. Yeah. It's very nice to put something in communications about that you are doing something cool with AI, but in the end, it's not 2022 anymore. Everybody is doing something with AI. If you cannot put it into productive use and impact in your business, it's sort of an issue. And these 5% who make successful proof of concepts that get in production have a massive advantage. And I would like today to equip you with a little bit of knowledge and probably take some strings of knowledge together that you already have, but probably not in that context yet, to equip you to be in this top 5%. Before we talk about why these processes or why these proof of concepts are failing, let's zoom out a little bit and let's talk about what are the improvements that we are looking or that AI can solve or hopefully will solve for us at all. And what most of the people are doing or are looking at is, of course, some sort of company process to be better and gain efficiency. Efficiency is a very broad term for what it is. If you are in the production sector, you have probably heard or read this book over here. This book is ancient, thinking from the late 60s. It's about the Toyota production system. Back then, Toyota was regarded as one of the most efficient production systems in the world, and there were books about it. This is from Taiichi Ono, from somebody over there. Now, don't already zoom away and start watching Netflix, where I'm talking here about production system. Well, because there are certain principles that come from manufacturing that are very focused on process and efficiency gains in processes, that are also for businesses that are not necessarily production businesses, that are digital, that are media businesses, maybe consulting businesses that don't even produce a product at all relevant. And that's the understanding of waste. In here, Taiichi Ono describes 7 different types of waste, and by reducing waste, we make our company and our products better. And when we look about the types of waste and the types of improvements that we can do for not necessarily physical processes, but also digital processes, non-production processes, I would say, it's the following. We are trying to reduce for a certain task that we have in a process, our processing time. So there we can quantify our return on invest pretty easily. Let's say you are a salesperson in a bigger organization, and you have to write offers, but not just offers here, $5 for product X. You have to actually look a little bit into what is the customer requiring, what do you have to offer. Putting a proposal together, that takes some time. If we can save time on that side, we reduce the time that we are spending on it, and we have a process improvement. What reducing processing time or execution time in that case helps us also to do is specifically in situations where we always have the backlog of tasks to do that are waiting and sitting and waiting, to reduce the amount of waiting time in that. So let's say we have the salesperson who gets in 8 new inquiries every day, but can only write offers for 6 inquiries of that today in the current state. We have a backlog that goes higher and higher. And eventually, if somebody is waiting too long for an offer to be received, these people might eventually walk away. And that's something that has also impact on our business. And on the other hand, how Ono is calling this is reducing defects, that is making our quality better. So if our offer and if the items in there are better, our chances are higher that we are actually getting this contract with the customer and we can sell. In that example that I just gave you. And that's a little bit about the improvements that we are that we are searching for. And back office tasks are actually the hidden champions in these type of improvements that you can make. Yeah, there might not be the most shiny examples, but there are the things that actually make a large proportion of our business. With back office tasks, I not only mean support, but yes, support is also support and administration is also in there. But I'm also talking about reporting. I'm talking about legal processes. I'm talking about operations in IT, for example. I'm talking about sales support and business development support, like these offer writing processes. I'm talking about knowledge management, compliance, all of these things that are non-customer facing directly and that are also not producing something, but processes that you need to have in your organization. Without it, you couldn't operate at all. That's the type of task we call back office task. And it's very many people underestimate how much time of our, let's say, of the time that we spend in our business are actually being occupied by these type of back office tasks. It's not that there are only people that are dedicated to back office tasks. Of course, if you have a dedicated support person or an IT support person, then that is a very clear position. But everybody in an organization has to do eventually back office tasks that support that what your company is selling to the outside. Yeah. And depending on how big your company is, it spends more or less time on a certain amount, on a certain share of these tasks. If you have a company lower or with smaller than 10 employees, it's likely that you spend about almost 48% on task that support the value creation that you do for your customers. And the bigger your company gets, the more you have a possibility to reduce that a little bit by doing, let's say, good automations at scale. Yeah? But in the end, it is still a large share of what businesses do that is not leaving the business, but is there to support what your business says. And the very nice thing about back office tasks, that's also what the MIT study has found, is that back office task automation delivers a double the success rate than other AI tools. And in terms of how big these improvements are, McKinsey says that in back office tasks, we can improve about 50% of our operational efficiency. So 50% of time savings doesn't seem too bad. And the best categories actually for doing these type of AI improvements is reporting and analytics, where you have a bunch of data and you need to create some sort of report that goes to somewhere who has either to look at it or to sign it off. Proposal writing, and you can get there very fast. That's also why I picked this example that I'm going to show you a little bit today. Contract review, management, procurement, everything in that area. Research, due diligence, and of course, project acquisition that we have here. And when we look on how much time we're spending on back office tasks in a company, we are talking here, if you have 10 people in your company, actually talking about when we combine it across all of the people that we have, it's equivalent to about 3 FTE. But if your company is in the size between 50 and 100 people, we are talking here about a really significant amount of time in your costs that is being occupied by these type of tasks. And what we are going to look today into is specifically how we are making these better and how we can use these benefits either to reduce our costs or use the existing amount of resources that we have to grow our business without having to hire more employees, which is, I think, a pretty sweet bit. And so far, the success formula that I have also seen in the field and of what I am doing is that the successful use cases usually have 3 pillars. Pillar 1 is high-value specific use cases with a lot of repetitions, doing something very specific a lot of times over and over again. That's the first pillar for success in that area. The second pillar is integrating with existing systems. And that's what I have seen specifically in the last year. People struggling really with, so you have probably realized that in the last or the last 2 to 3 years, everybody got their hands somehow on ChatGPT. Yeah. ChatGPT is a model that can do everything, but is not an expert in the things that you are doing. And also ChatGPT does not have access to your internal systems, to your CRMs, to your ERP systems, to all of your documents, all of the things that you need to actually make these processes not something that is hallucinated together, but that it's rooted in your company with the specific DNA of your company. And therefore, we need to integrate existing systems. And the third one, this actually comes from MIT, so it's not from me, but it's partnering with experts and working with them in tandem to build something that makes an impact. And we have basically 2 different categories of use cases. Most of the use cases or most of the people have been focusing on in the last 1 to 2 years are the general productivity gain use cases. They're thinking of, oh, I have to write now an email. Let's maybe take ChatGPT and let ChatGPT create that email for me. In the end, you are sitting there in an interaction with a chat interface that creates something for you with an AI model, but you still need to feed in all of your information. Yeah, you need to feed in, if you're creating this email answer, you need to feed in your history, your previous history. You need to give context about what it is that you're trying to achieve. That is all needed to get actually a high quality answer of that. Yeah, unless for very small and ad hoc tasks like summarizing something. Yeah, but these types are what I call general productivity gain use cases. They have a high perceived value when you look into there because you have something in front of your face and say, cool, it does know something for me that I would have to do manually otherwise. But it is not when we actually look into the hard return on investment that you have on implementing solutions like that or using these type of things, we are talking here about a 5 to 12% gain in the time that you are spending on certain tasks. Yeah? And these type of categories are where all of these standard tools like you have Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT Enterprise and how they are all called there if you don't integrate them with your existing systems that you already have. And then on the other hand, we have a different type of use cases that I call the blockbuster use cases. These are the use cases where you have highly time-consuming, repeatable processes that have a high amount of cases. So if you're a customer support agent, for example, or if you're an internal support agent and you say you have 12,000 tickets a year, that's a lot of cases that you have. And if you have a high effort per case, then you can do the math on what the prospective return on investment on that is. Yeah, time that you need per case times the number of cases times the cost that you have per hour times what you are actually saving in terms of percent. And then we are talking here about an impact ROI that is much higher than just I'm chatting here something with ChatGPT and hope it helps me. But we are getting into an area where this is in the 45 to 75% area for what we have seen most. And if we take a look at these type of blockbuster use cases, then we will see that there's a lot of things that are much more complex that we have to look into. That's the illustration that I'm going to give you now before we are going to look into a little bit of unit economics. I have here actually a customer use case, or actually I have here an example that's modeled after a real world use case. I don't want to expose my customers' data here right now, but we are talking here about a company that has about 400 employees. They are a production company, so they produce a physical product, and not only one product, but they actually produce 9,000 different SKUs that they are selling. Yeah, so we have 9,000 different products that we need to match to about 15,000 inquiries that we have per year. So let's say let's assume this company is a company that is selling electric heaters and different shapes, different sizes, and different price points of heaters. And now it's winter, and we are getting from a bunch of commercial real estate developers inquiries for heaters. And all of these inquiries are some sort of text, an email, or something not as nice as an email. For example, something that looks like this. Think of that. You are this heater company and you have received with actual mail from the post office a letter from the city of Greenford, how municipalities are doing it, that looks like this. It actually didn't came to you like this, but it came to your post department for a bit and then it has been laying around, and there might be a little bit of an incident that has happened to the document. But in the end, this is a document inquiring 30 electric heaters for new developments. So they're looking for a compact space heater for 120 units, an industrial workshop heater, and a large hall convention heater with a certain specificality that you have in here. This was not scanned correctly. There's a coffee stain on it, and it has not a very high resolution. If I zoom in, that this is actually not a PDF, but this is a scanned picture that we have here. And we are there and have now to figure out what to offer to these people. And that's the little use case that I would like to show to you folks today as an illustration. I do, in my day-to-day life, use an application which is a no-code automation platform that's called FlowHive. FlowHive has basically a no-code tool that looks like this, where you can drag and drop without having to program anything, different nodes on a big canvas to build a process that you can run over and over again and automate. And the process that we are here seeing that we are automating is taking an inquiry that I've just shown you and creating an offer out of that. And you will see that this is much more complex than just writing something in ChatGPT. The process looks, when I zoom out, the process looks like this. Yeah? This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-step process. The first step of this process is using our inquiry. So we have to feed this process with something, an input variable. And in this case, this is our inquiry. And because we have sometimes the issue that we don't get nice PDFs, but we get sometimes very ugly scans like this one with coffee stains on it. We first need to digitize that in a way that is helpful. And that's where we're using an AI model that can do OCR, character recognition, and extract this data from an image. Then we are feeding this into a large language model to basically give us a structured format of what it is that we would like to get out. There's a prompt, but we are not prompting this in an interactive interface, but we are defining this prompt as a template, and we are saying what of these inputs of these processes are being fed in, and that's what this looks like. And then we have a decision in here, which is a condition that we need to evaluate. And that looks like follows. If that is an inquiry from one of our already existing key accounts, we would like to actually hand it off to our key account manager, to say, hey, you take care of this. This is not a new customer. Him already, just take care of this customer. Then we have here two steps that is writing basically an email to the key account manager and is sending this email via an email program that we have in our systems already integrated. So this means we are here in a situation where we have an integration to our existing infrastructure that we do have in our company. ChatGPT doesn't have an access to my email accounts. That's all things that cannot be done. And in here we have that, and we can get much more value out of that. But the real interesting use case is not when we just hand it off to a key account manager, but if this is a new customer, we are here and we are extracting this into a form that we can insert into our customer relationship management tool. And that's this little node that you see here. If you have HubSpot, if you have something else, we can integrate that in a way that we can insert the data that has been extracted by an LLM. We'll find the best products in our product database. And in the end, where we compose an email and we send it out to the customer. Yeah? And once we do this, of course, we can upload our inquiry over here and we can run this process. You will see that there is a whole bunch of movement happening here. The first part of the process is done, right? We are digitizing it. We are digitizing the requirements, and that we are getting text out of this image with the coffee stain. We get results. And now we do an analysis on if we are giving that to our key account manager. And you see here that we have taken the other path because we don't have key account manager, and we are going step by step further and further. Yeah? And and in the end, we are sending an email that will pop up on my screen in a bit. And that's the approach that you can take to get really complex use cases that you repeat over and over again in different situations and in different types in and out. And that's the first type of use cases that we are looking to take. The economics behind this use case is pretty simple. We have a process, and this process has several steps. And we can sit there with a stopwatch and see how long it takes us to do a step in this process. It doesn't take us, let's say, analysis of the requirement documents takes us usually 25 minutes because there's a little bit more behind. Data entry to the CRM costs us 5 minutes. You have to log in, you have to find the right customer, so it's not super long. And we have here the offer document drafting that's actually taking us a little bit because we need to write stuff, we need to copy things together, we need to take pictures, etc. If we looked at on a macro view and we say we only have 500 cases like this per year, if you have to write 500 offers of that per year, we are talking, and with the amount of money that these people make, together with a little bit of overhead that we are accounting, the costs that is are in the range of about $28,000. But that's the as-is part. The really interesting part of these type of back office processes is that you can get very efficient by automating them and save a lot of costs on that side. And that the savings of just that process in that example that I gave you here is about $18,000 or 62% of the cost before. You can use this cost that you're saving to basically allocate to different things or to scale your business and grow. So that's the one type of use cases. That's the blockbuster use cases. But that we also have a long list of things that we can do, but that are not where we don't have 500 times the same thing that we are doing per year. This is everything that you put under miscellaneous ad hoc tasks. So There is a bunch of tools out there, and ChatGPT is also one of them, of course, that do this, where you can get a little bit of improvement. But if you add, let's say, your company DNA, your company systems to agents that have access to it and that can do things with it, create good plans and execute it for themselves, you are gaining quite a bit more than just these 5 to 12% when you don't have it. Yeah. And I would also like to show you an illustration for that. This is again another part of my platform that I have here. It's called FlowHive. I'm going to talk a little bit about FlowHive in a second. And you see here that I have here a specific agent that is called my company HiveMind agent. And this company HiveMind agent has been taught a bunch of different skills. And these skills are basically integrations or AI using integrations to do things in my environment. So if I say here, I have a project in Greenwich Village in New York City, and we are not sure if the heater that we have in our portfolio called Ignis S100 that we have selected works in the houses that we use. I would like you to use internet web search to find the max and the min temperature that it gets usually in Greenwich Village in New York City. And I would like you to use our standard operating procedures that we have in our database to see what handles best. And maybe it could be possible that we have sold here the wrong heater. And in that situation that we have then here, we are seeing that the agent that is here is not just one LLM, but we have here a planner agent that is basically looking into your query and is breaking it down into a certain sequence of steps to answer this query. So first, you see here, this agent is using web search and has completed the web search already to find the maximum and the minimum temperature in Greenwich Village. Then it's using another skill that we have called standard operating procedure retrieval from a database, where we have an integration to a database to find exactly these range informations that we have. And then it's using an LLM to basically give us a human written answer in a couple of seconds. And this function or this agentic behavior of looking at a certain problem, breaking it down into a plan and acting upon that plan is where you can, even if you don't want to focus on blockbuster use cases, still have a very high improvement. It's clear that you can't take all of the processes that your company does and build an explicit automation for them. But with these planner agents, you have the possibility to basically create this workflow on the fly without you having to do it. The workflow agents, these agents that you see here, work in a way that we have given them certain skills too. So I have here a skill called standard operating procedures lookup. We have here a skill called web search, and we have a skill called in-depth writing, and we have a skill called large language model, just generic large language model. And we can click on those and see that these skills are basically here just workflows that we can pre-build, so that these workflows are later combined in sequences of workflows to answer problems for a bigger picture. And that's the other way that you can get in there for a task where you don't want to build a very complex task every time, but where you would rather have or a complex process every time, but where you would rather have an agent building this process for you. The toolkits that I recommend for that is if you are just marrying yourself to one provider out there and saying, hey, we are using Microsoft Copilot and only that, you're restricting yourself by quite a bit, because there is a lot of very good models out there and integrations for web search, for deep research, that are good for certain use cases. Gemini is excellent for report writing. Gemini 2.5 Pro writes you reports that you can never get out of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is always concise and small, but if you need to write a 10, 15-page report, getting that out of OpenAI is very hard. So there's use cases for all of these models and more than the ones that I've just put over here. I hardly recommend giving also the building in the hands of your employees and colleagues, and not only doing it once from the external. So a citizen developer approach is something that I hardly recommend over here in your toolkit. And integrating, that is probably the most important part. Use your existing systems that you have. Just don't think you're buying some sort of AI system and it will do everything in isolation and you don't have to touch it again. Try to integrate your existing systems that you have to get the most benefit out of that. And ideally, you use one single platform to do all of that so you don't have the scattering of tools around. Now, with that little bit of knowledge that I think I've shared today, I think we know a little bit what to focus on. On the one hand, when we are talking about blockbuster use cases that provide a very high return on investment, but take a bit of time and resources to implement. Yeah, that's clear. This is more complex than something that you do in an afternoon. For most of the cases, you need to talk with the people that are experts in the processes that you are trying to automate and log into. We have on the other side these general efficiency gain use cases that can be done rather quickly, but also have a little bit of less return on investment, but can be a starting point. And from the starting point and integrating different types of sets or of integrations that you already have in there. Do you know how to implement, work with experts? You can evaluate if a citizen developer approach is something for you, and use platforms of that you have. A lot of probably your competitors on the market are in these 95% of AI projects right now that fail or never make it to production due to them focusing on the wrong things, doing the things not the right way and seeing it in isolation. There's now massive opportunities for business owners, for businesses that are here right now. And even if you were not doing AI since 2022, yeah, there is still a massive opportunity. You are still, if you are getting it into a production state, you are still one of the early people in there that really adopted. Not the people call themselves early adopters, but most of them are early experimenters that then fail and realize that they don't want to adopt. If you are one of the actual early adopters, you still have a massive advantage in that market. And that's where I would like to tell you a little bit about us and what we are doing here at FlowHive. I work with companies of sizes of 5 people to 300,000 people right now on basically processes and process improvements. How I do that usually, and if you don't want me to do it, but if you want to do it yourself, I hardly recommend by starting with what I call an identification sprint. So looking into all of these different, you have usually a feeling of the high-level pain points in your organization, but really sit together with the experts, and that's what we're doing, what we call in the exploration sprint or identification sprint, talking with the experts of the processes in the company that you are working with your colleagues, conducting interviews with subject matter experts, and really figure out what the processes are that you have and where the real gains are. If you would contract a project like this with me, you would get a clear output, a clear list of processes, a model of all of these processes, and together with a prioritization of which one could benefit from AI and which one could benefit from something else, and together with a prioritization according to the return on investment. And for a company of around 100 people, we usually find savings potentials between, low end $500,000, but usually between $1 million and $2.5 million US in a sprint. Yeah? If we do not a 4-week sprint, but if we have a very big company where we need a little bit longer, the deeper we go, the more we find usually. We do implement these type of blockbuster projects. So we do custom development of these type of integrations that you see into existing systems and making it ready for productive use. We also set up a company and AI environment so that employees can work with these automations and also build automations themselves together with a bit of upskilling. And for most of the cases, we use, of course, our own technical platform that is compatible with all of the tools out there, all of the models, and is not in contrast to any of them. We are a team very experienced in doing exactly that. I have here a list of a bunch of customers that we have been working with in the past, but there's many more. Again, over the last 3 years, more than 55 applications that we built of that, and hundreds of processes that we had to look on. Usually this is a funnel. You look which ones make sense, which one don't make sense, and to go into. And that's where I would like to leave you for today, is with my little introduction on back office tasks and automation.